Oh, we got a tree shaker over there. Oh, Lord, look at the tree, baby. We got a tree shaker, Mr. Roy. We got a tree shaker. Oh. Was that the wind? I like it.
I do push myself to the limits a lot, but that's the way of commercial fishing is. You're gonna push yourself to the limit every year, every day of the year. And I mean, that's the way that you gotta do to make a living.
We all tune in to Swamp People for the heart-pounding gator hunts and raw fight between man and nature. But it's the people in those Louisiana swamps who truly made the show unforgettable. Over the years, these hunters and swamp legends have become like family to viewers, with stories that go far beyond the hunt. But as the seasons roll on, some familiar faces have changed or taken unexpected turns.
Looking at this pile of alligators, there's not much money in it. After all expenses, there's no money to pay for a deckhand.
Which of these swamp icons are still ruling the bayou? And what really happened when the cameras stopped rolling? Join us as we head deep into the swamp to uncover how they're doing now. Troy Landry. When you talk about the heart and soul of swamp people, you have to start with Troy Landry. Known far and wide as the king of the swamp, Troy isn't just a hunter. He's a symbol of everything the show stands for. With his unmistakable Cajun accent, fearless attitude, and decades of experience,
I've never met an alligator yet that can outlast Troy Landry. 40 days over, but try to give you singing lessons. Most people would die to have this kind of job. You know, they're stuck behind a desk.
Troy quickly became the face viewers couldn't get enough of. Born and raised in Louisiana, Troy didn't learn swamp life from a book. It was passed down through generations. Long before reality TV came knocking, he was already a seasoned hunter, navigating the bayou with instincts sharpened by years of experience. When Swamp People premiered, Troy didn't just adapt to the cameras adapted to him. His natural charisma and no-nonsense approach made him an instant fan favorite. But his journey hasn't been without its challenges, some of which are harder to imagine than you might expect. Keep watching to uncover the struggles he's faced. Behind the scenes, life in the swamp is anything but easy. Alligator hunting is a seasonal race against time, with strict quotas, unpredictable weather, and physical exhaustion pushing hunters to their limits. Troy has faced all of it head-on, year after year. While the show brought fame, it also brought pressure, the expectation to deliver bigger catches, more intense moments, and never-ending action. Troy also dealt with the wear and tear that comes from decades of this kind of labor, aches, fatigue, and the constant risk of injury that never really goes away. Despite all that, Troy Landry has stayed remarkably grounded. He never traded the swamp for Hollywood or tried to reinvent himself as something he's not. Instead, he doubled down on his roots. When he's not filming, Troy is still out there working, fishing, trapping, and living the same life he always has. But the twist came in 2022 when Troy revealed he had been diagnosed with prostate cancer. It wasn't something fans saw coming. One minute he was hauling massive gators. The next, he was facing a life-threatening illness. Troy underwent surgery to remove his prostate, later sharing that the cancer had already done serious damage. Thankfully, the operation was successful, but the recovery forced him to slow down in a way he never had before. And just when it seemed like he was back on his feet, another storm rolled in. This time, not from nature, but from the law. In 2024, Troy found himself in unexpected legal trouble after being cited for improperly tagging an alligator and hunting in a restricted area. Authorities even seized his boat and engine, a shocking moment for someone whose life revolves around the water. While it didn't lead to an arrest, The situation carried potential fines and serious consequences, putting his reputation under scrutiny. But the hardest blows weren't physical or legal, they were personal. In 2025, Troy lost 2 people who meant a great deal to him, including fellow Swamp People legend Junior Edwards. Losing close friends and longtime companions from the swamp shook him deeply, reminding him and fans just how fragile life can be. And if that wasn't enough, Troy also faced heartbreak within his own family. His grandson was born with a serious liver disease, requiring ongoing medical care and even a transplant. It's the kind of battle that no amount of swamp experience can prepare you for, a fight that happens far away from cameras, in hospital rooms instead of bayous. This is the hard fact that Troy is facing today. Right now, he is not the fearless hunter chasing gators, but the man facing health scares, legal pressure, personal loss, and family struggles all at once. And yet, through it all, he keeps going. Because for Troy, quitting isn't an option. It never has been. That resilience is exactly what makes him more than just the king of the swamp. It's what makes him a survivor. But while Troy continues to stand strong on survival, the next name on our list took a very different path. One that led away from the swamp and into an entirely new world. Jacob Landry. Jacob Landry grew up in the shadow of a legend, but he was never content staying there. As Troy's eldest son, viewers first met Jacob as a young hunter learning the ropes, often under the watchful eye and occasional tough love of his father. But over time, it became clear that Jacob had ambitions that stretched beyond the swamp. From the beginning, Jacob showed he had the skills to keep up. He wasn't just along for the ride, he was hauling in gators, making tough calls, and proving he could handle the pressure. But unlike his father, Jacob Landry had another passion quietly developing behind the scenes, and that was filmmaking. So, as Swamp People grew in popularity, Jacob started exploring opportunities in the entertainment world. While many reality stars stick strictly to what made them famous, Jacob took a different route. He began working behind the camera, getting involved in production and storytelling in ways most fans never expected. This shift didn't mean abandoning his roots. Far from it. Jacob still participates in hunting and remains deeply connected to his family's way of life. But his journey shows that even in a tradition-bound world like the swamp, there's room for evolution. Balancing both worlds hasn't been easy. The demands of filming, hunting seasons, and personal life can clash in ways that test anyone's limits. But Jacob has managed to carve out a unique identity, part swamp hunter, part filmmaker. On the personal side, Jacob Landry has embraced family life, building a stable foundation away from the chaos of the swamp season. It's a different kind of responsibility, but one that reflects his growth over the years. While Troy represents tradition, Jacob represents transition, a bridge between the old ways and new possibilities. But it does not with them. In fact, what is coming next is something that will shock you. Paul Meyer and Ray Paul Meyer Jr. Up next is the story of Paul Meyer and Ray Paul Meyer Jr., a father-son duo who proved that in the world of swamp people, family isn't just important, it's everything. While Troy and his sons may be the most recognizable names, the Meyer family brought their own brand of intensity to the swamp. J. Paul handled the dangerous task of wrangling gators, while J. Paul took the shot, creating a system that was as effective as it was fearless. But what made them stand out wasn't just their teamwork, it was their edge. These weren't laid-back hunters. Both men had reputations for strength long before reality television came calling. J. Paul wasn't just a hunter, he was deeply involved in mixed martial arts, bringing that same aggressive energy into the cage. Ray, on the other hand, built a name for himself in arm wrestling, even becoming a multi-time world champion. These weren't just television personalities, they were competitors through and through. And for a while, that competitive spirit helped define their image on the show. But as of now, reality has painted a more complicated picture. Back in 2016, the duo found themselves at the center of a serious legal situation that shocked fans. What started as a night out quickly escalated into a road rage incident that spiraled out of control. According to reports, the confrontation didn't end on the road. It continued to a nearby location, where a 24-year-old man claimed he was violently attacked, allegedly beaten with a beer bottle. The accusations were severe, leading to both Ray and Jay. Paul was arrested and charged with assault and battery. For viewers who were used to seeing them battle gators, this was a different kind of fight entirely, one that played out in police reports rather than on camera. But the story didn't end there. Both men maintained their innocence, insisting that the situation was being misrepresented and that they were caught in a mutual dispute rather than acting as aggressors. Like many real-life conflicts, the truth wasn't entirely clear-cut, leaving fans divided over what really happened that night. What is clear, however, is that the incident had a lasting impact on their public image. In a show built on toughness and survival, there's a fine line between being fearless and being reckless, and this moment blurred that line in a way that was hard to ignore. Even so, the Meyer duo remains a reminder that life in and around the swamp isn't always as controlled as it looks on television. Emotions run high, tempers flare, and sometimes the same intensity that helps someone succeed can also lead them into trouble. Roger Rivers. Another name that stands out from swamp people is Roger Rivers, a man who, with a name like that, almost feels destined for the swamp. During his time on the show, he made a strong impression in a relatively short span, appearing in Season 5 and quickly proving he wasn't afraid to take risks. In fact, some of his methods bordered on unbelievable, like attempting to take down a gator by hand with nothing but a knife. It was bold, high-risk behavior that instantly grabbed attention and made for unforgettable television. On the surface, Roger seemed to embody the same rugged independence as many of his fellow hunters. He often spoke about providing for his family, presenting himself as someone who relied on the swamp not just for sport, but for survival. But as of now, the reality of his life off-screen tells a far more complicated story. In 2017, Roger Rivers found himself facing serious legal trouble tied directly to his activities in the wild. Authorities accused him of illegally selling wildlife, essentially turning the swamp into an unregulated marketplace. Reports suggested he was dealing in various types of meat, including fish, deer, turtles, and reptiles, actions that violated conservation laws meant to protect those fragile ecosystems. That alone was enough to raise eyebrows, but it wasn't the end of his troubles. Years later, in 2022, Roger Rivers was once again in the spotlight, this time for an entirely different issue. As someone involved in construction work, he was accused of accepting thousands of dollars for a job that was never completed. The situation escalated quickly, leading to fraud charges, an arrest, and further damage to his reputation. Taken together, these incidents paint a picture far removed from the fearless hunter viewers once saw on screen. Instead of battling gators, Roger found himself facing legal consequences, again and again. His story reveals a different side of reality television fame. While the show can bring recognition and opportunity, it doesn't shield anyone from accountability. If anything, it puts every action under a brighter spotlight. For Roger Rivers, that spotlight didn't just highlight his daring hunts, it exposed a pattern of choices that ultimately came to define his journey far more than any moment in the swamp ever could. And this is where it gets better. keep watching. Joe LaFont. Now, not every story from swamp people is about survival in the swamp. Some take a much darker turn when the cameras stop rolling. And that brings us to Trapper Joe. Joe LaFont, better known as Trapper Joe, was one of the most recognizable faces in the early seasons of the show. Appearing in over 50 episodes, he quickly became a standout, often teaming up with his stepson, Trigger Tommy. Together, they brought a competitive edge that fans couldn't get enough of. Every hunt felt like a challenge, every catch like a victory. Joe wasn't just there to participate, he was there to dominate. With his bold personality and constant drive to prove himself, Trapper Joe made sure all eyes were on him. Whether he was calling his shots or backing up his words with massive gator catches, he built a reputation as someone who thrived under pressure. But then, out of the blue, Joe disappeared from the show, and his sudden departure raised more questions than answers. Off-screen, Joe LaFont found himself caught in a series of serious legal situations. One of the most shocking incidents took place at a Florida hotel, where a heated argument between Joe and his girlfriend reportedly spiraled out of control. Witnesses claimed the situation turned physical, alleging that Joe struck her and even burned her with a lit cigarette. Police were called, and Joe was arrested on the spot. But here's where things take an unexpected turn. Despite the severity of the allegations, his girlfriend later refused to press charges, calling it a misunderstanding. That explanation raised more questions than answers, leaving fans unsure of what really happened behind closed doors. And if that was the only incident, it might have been easier to overlook. But it wasn't. Reports show that Joe LaFont had prior arrests in 2013 and 2015 tied to domestic violence allegations. In one case, the claims involved serious physical harm, painting a pattern that couldn't be ignored. Suddenly, the fearless hunter fans admired on screen was facing a completely different kind of reality, one that ultimately pulled him away from the spotlight. His absence from swamp people wasn't just a quiet exit. It was the result of issues that ran far deeper than anything seen on camera. Trapper Joe's story is a reminder that reality television doesn't always show the full picture. Sometimes, the real drama happens far away from the swamp, and it's far more serious than anything viewers expect. But if you think that story was intense, the next one takes things in an even more shocking direction. Nicholas Payne. Nicholas Payne didn't spend long on swamp people, but his story left a lasting impression, and not for the reasons you might think. Introduced in Season 2 as an apprentice to veteran hunter Bruce Mitchell, Nicholas seemed to have a real shot at building a future in the swamp. Learning from one of the best, he had the opportunity to turn his passion into a career. But almost as quickly as he appeared, he was gone. So, what went wrong? As of now, the answer points to a series of decisions that completely derailed his path. In September 2011, what started as a routine police visit over a noise complaint turned into something far more serious. Instead of simply resolving the issue, Nicholas allegedly took things in a completely different direction. According to reports, the situation escalated to the point where he physically confronted a police officer before fleeing into the woods. Yes, into the woods, as if he could somehow outrun the consequences. It might sound unbelievable, but reality caught up with him quickly. Authorities tracked him down, and he was arrested, facing multiple charges as a result of the incident. And here's the part that makes it even more concerning. This wasn't his first run-in with law enforcement. Just a year earlier, Nicholas had already faced legal trouble for a similar situation involving an officer, which resulted in probation. That pattern made it clear this wasn't a one-time mistake. After that, Nicholas disappeared from the show entirely. And today, his life remains a hidden mystery. Cheyenne Wheat. Another star from swamp people who is still thriving in the swamp is Cheyenne Pickle Wheat. Born on September 21, 1995 in Poydras, Louisiana, Pickle comes from a long line of alligator hunters, making her connection to the swamp something far deeper than just a career. Her great-grandfather was among the original gator hunters in St. Bernard Parish. So stepping into this world wasn't a choice, it was a legacy she was destined to carry forward.
It's not worth it to me. Like, this land could just get sucked out from underneath us any second.
When Pickle joined Swamp People in Season 12 in 2021, she brought a fresh energy to the series. But don't let that fool you. Her skills were anything but new. Years of experience had already shaped her into a confident and capable hunter, and it didn't take long for fans to take notice. Her fearless attitude and sharp instincts quickly made her a standout, proving she could hold her own in one of the toughest environments imaginable. Off-screen, Pickle has also made smart moves to build her brand. She launched her own merchandise line, featuring items like t-shirts, caps, and hunting gear, turning her growing popularity into a successful business venture. Her personal life has seen its own evolution as well. After a previous relationship with fellow cast member Troy Landry, Pickle found love with Joshua Kippis, an emergency medical technician. The couple welcomed their first child in April 2023, marking a major milestone in her life. As of now, Pickle continues to juggle life as a mother, hunter, and television personality. Through it all, she remains deeply committed to preserving her family's traditions and keeping the spirit of the Louisiana swamp alive. So, what do you think? Which of these Swamp People stars surprised you the most with how their lives turned out? And were there any stories that didn't go the way you expected? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. And click the next video on your screen. You won't want to miss what comes next.